Hello. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Cubaris Crabby. Now, even though this is a Cubaris species, this species wasn't found in Thailand. What? What the hell? These guys were found in southern Vietnam. These guys are called Cubaris Crabby or Cubaris Nguyen. Named after the guy that found them. This is a really interesting species in that they are considered giants. These guys can get up to about an inch in size or length, or about 2.8 centimeters. These are big. These aren't huge, they're big. And they can still roll up. They can still do the roly-poly thing where they roll up. It's cool. So this is how I have them. The standard Cubaris setup. Latching lid, 6-quart tub, perforated on one side. Got perforation holes here along the top. Here is how I keep all of my Cubaris. I have a long fiber sphagnum trench from the top all the way to the bottom. The soil is a mixture of organic soil, cuttlebone pieces, calcium powder, hardwood leaves, and rotwood. All those 5 things make for a good soil. You can subtract as many things as you want or add to it, but those 5 things are kind of, a good spot for substrate. I have corkwood for them to hide under, hardwood leaves for them to chew on and hide under, lotus pod for them to hide under and chew on. Nice, very nice. Cute little silicone tub here where I put morning wood. Now this species, this tub actually had hitchhikers. I have another type of isopod in here that I don't cultivate on purpose. Just kind of hitchhiked along on maybe some wood or something. But I have found that when there is ever Cubaris babies, they are always found with this other species. Or, they safety in numbers, right? And so that's the reason why I haven't started over a new bin, or the reason I've been trying to kill off all the hitchhikers. Maybe the crabby babies just appreciate company and they hang out with these hitchhikers. So I think these guys are doing some good, so I leave the hitchhikers alone as long as they're at a manageable population. And once they get too big, I kind of feed them off to some of my spiders and dwarf scorpions. So yeah, so let's get into the crabbies though, because that's what you're here for. So as I mentioned before, species comes from southern Vietnam. They are considered giants because they get about an inch big, which is pretty big for an isopod of substantial size. They're huge even, some would say. They like their temperatures about 75%, humidity 80 to 90%. Loads of springtails in here. Always introduce your isopods to an established bin with lots of springtails. That way rot gets dealt away with pretty quickly, all the uneaten food. Talking about food, these guys do eat, they chew on the hardwood leaves, the oak leaves and things like that. They get chewed on, but they're not very happy about it. They eat a lot of Rapashi morning wood, a lot of dried krill, fish flake, organic veg. All of those are really good options. They don't really show a preference, so they'll eat anything. These guys reproduce slowly. Well, I started with 5, and I didn't really see babies until the hitchhikers arrived. And once they arrived, I started seeing babies here and there. If I look for them, I see maybe 2 or 3 babies at a time, which isn't a lot, but babies are babies. Wetness, I've gone over. If you've seen any of my other isopod videos, I do this weird thing where it's wet to the touch on the wettest side, and on the driest side, can still feel the humidity between your fingers if you kind of rub the soil together. You should not have any visibly dry soil. If you have any powdery soil that's dry, you shouldn't, because then your isopods are going to desiccate. Even if it's high humidity in the bin, that dry soil has killed plenty of my isopods before. So keep your isopods a little bit more wet than dry. Like I said, at your driest point, you should still feel some humidity in your fingers. Your isopods will find a good halfway point, and if your soil is too dry, they'll crawl onto the bark or lotus pod or on top of the leaves or whatever. They'll find a good spot. If it's too dry, then they'll desiccate. So, all right. Cost. These guys are not cheap at all. You can probably find a 10 count for like 300 and something bucks. So that's about 30 bucks a bug plus shipping. And I haven't seen any pet stores that carry these guys. So you're eating that shipping cost. So they're not cheap. They're big. Their coloration is actually pretty nice. But you're going to be eating a pretty big cost. For that reason, high cost means that this guy is not good for cleanup crews. They're no good at all. I don't want to say no good at all, but they don't reproduce fast enough to replace members that get predated upon. They don't eat things that you would be, want them to eat. They don't really go through dead crickets or fecals as fast as you'd want them to. Granted, I started with a low population of them, but because they're so expensive, most people are going to start with a low population of them. So not a lot of work is going to get done, So so cleanup crew potential low, cost high. Just one of those things. So overall difficulty for these guys, not too bad. I'd say about a medium. They're about a medium, they're not extremely difficult, they're not extremely easy. As long as you got the humidity thing right, you should be good to go. This one did that roly-poly. The roly-poly signature move, defense curl. This is how they are. Let's see if I can. Yeah, these guys, pretty cool. There's actually a baby in here too. Oh, there's a baby. Hey, baby. Like I said, started with 5. One died. Not sure why. Left with 4. Those 4 started producing babies, and so I'm at a good spot. See, very, very cool. Like a very large blonde rubber ducky is what I would like in these guys too. Very, very, very cool species. Very cool. There's another one there. Another one there. So that's 3, 4. These are the hitchhikers. They don't get very big, and they stay about that small. But each time I see babies, they're always surrounded by them. So what can you do? And I'll be honest, one time I was reading a post on some plants, and when you get a hitchhiker plant, people don't call them pests, they don't call them weeds. A lot of people on the plant forums call them volunteers. They just kind of sprout up, and that kind of gets into the mentality of something is a weed or a pest when you see no function and they're an obstacle to what you believe is perfection, right? It goes from a guy with a perfectly manicured lawn sees a dandelion, and they see an invasion. When a vegan sees a dandelion in their yard, they think of it as lunch, and they pull it out and they eat the leaves with some type of vinaigrette. It's all about perspective, and I believe that these hitchhikers, even though they're there, I think these big boys are getting the lion's share of the food. They're always first there, and when I see the babies, they're always huddling around with the rest of the pods or the hitchhikers. So I don't see any harm coming from them, you know. Alrighty, so this is the carbon Cubaris Nguyen, or the Cubaris Crabby. Fantastically large species. Coloration's cool. They do hide. They're very shy. You're not going to see them out and about. If you want a species that's out and about, you should see my video on the Cubaris white ducky. That species always out and about. But regardless, this is a very nice large species if you're trying to get into a larger species of isopods. And overall, they're not too hard. They're a pretty moderate species to take care of. It's just the wetness. If you're getting into isopods and you can get the wetness for rubber duckies, white duckies, you're good to go. You're done. You know, that's basically what you need. And with these bins, once you spray enough water, you kind of get to know them, especially these 6-quart bins. You kind of got a feel for how much water you should put in to replace. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it was educational. Hope it was at least a little fun, you know. It got a little philosophical at the end there. But overall, this is a fantastic species to keep. Would I recommend buying the Cubaris Crabby? If you're an aficionado, absolutely. If you're just getting into isopods, you can have this one in the back burner. This is pretty expensive. You're basically putting a lot of money down for the size, and for basically getting large, overgrown, blonde rubber duckies, right? That's basically what they look like to me, but they're pretty cool nonetheless. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.